Welcome to Coach's Corner podcast by Well at Humana, where we talk all things health and fitness with an authentic, informative, and real-world lens. This year, we're personalizing the podcast a bit more with the people behind it. Each month, we'll introduce you to a new Exos fitness coach on our team, where we'll dive into their personal stories through fitness, specialties, passions, and more.
Welcome to Coach's Corner podcast. We're excited to welcome Coach Randi Norris to the podcast this month. We will be covering her fitness journey and her work as a performance coach at Well at Humana. Welcome, Randi.
Woo! Hi.
Before we go into the podcast, we're going to just cover a little bit of Randi's background so you guys know who you're talking to and who you're learning about. Randi is a senior fitness coach at Well at Humana, training one-on-one clients, performing health assessments, and managing one of our unstaffed facilities. She's been with Exos for 5 years, fulfilling various roles from front desk attendant now to senior level coaching. She's received a Bachelor of Science from the University of Louisville, where she also competed as a track athlete on the women's track and field team. So that's quite the accomplishment.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
It was a
Ain't no
time.
thing.
It was just a time.
It was a time.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. But first, before we get started, we're going to turn it over to Amy for rapid fire questions.
All right, so Randi, how these work? I got my handy little ripped up paper here with your questions, and I'm just gonna go through. I'm gonna ask a question, and you're just gonna answer as fast as you can. First thing that pops in your head, no ums, no thinking. Boom. You ready?
Okay.
Favorite exercise?
Deadlift.
Do you prefer breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Breakfast.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
What's your favorite snack?
Cookies.
Last place you traveled?
Italy.
Next place you want to travel?
Greece.
Preferred way to relax?
Traveling.
Favorite animal?
A dog.
What's your coffee order?
Ooh, vanilla latte.
Oh, good choice. Mountains.
milk.
Oh, yes, queen. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Morning person or night owl?
Both.
Oh, interesting. One daily practice you swear by?
Working out.
And lastly, what is something you are looking forward to?
Ooh.
That
My
one's
next
stumped
trip?
her.
No,
Next trip. It's about travel for you, huh?
Yes.
I think Randi did one
That
of the
was-
best we've seen.
Yeah, most
You
people are
did
like,
really good.
I like squatting.
Yeah, you did.
You're like,
I tried.
yeah,
did
now
really
you
good.
were.
You did
Boom.
really good. So, Randi, today we're looking to learn a little bit more about you. Like what we've been doing in this season is learning more about our coaches and really how they got involved in the industry, but also like what was their personal journey. So that's where I'd like to start is to, like, fill us in on how did you get involved personally in fitness and wellness?
It probably started from the age I could walk. I was always pretty active, and my parents had me in activities from the time I could walk until, obviously, till college.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've played and practiced almost everything that you can: basketball, soccer, volleyball, track, dance.
What was your favorite?
gymnastics, volleyball.
Good sport.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Solid sport.
I do really
Yeah.
like volleyball.
Yeah, it's
I-
very fun to watch. I
I-
don't know if you've watched the college teams, the NCAA championship this year, but they are unbelievable.
Volleyball's very underrated, I feel like, in the amount of attention that it gets
Yes.
for how fun, how fast it is.
For
I
you
should've
people
upped
in
it.
Louisville, the NCAA is coming to the Yum Center in this year, so get your tickets.
Dang, I should have
I'm
invited
going.
you to our
Let's
rec
go.
league last year. We could have used some quality people.
Randi would
we
be
were struggling.
dominating.
Yeah.
Was it indoor or was it beach?
No, it was beach sand.
I'm no good at
What?
Oh,
my foot.
Oh, it's so fun. So fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I got us way off track, but okay, you've played every sport. Where did it go
Yeah.
from there?
So obviously throughout high school, and as we talked about, I ran track in college. So after that, that was kind of like my pivot point. Was like, well, now I don't have a sport. I don't have anything that's like driving me to work out, or I don't have a practice to go to. So I'm just like trying out classes, trying out gyms, figuring it out. And that's how I got into coaching, was like I just really enjoyed the workouts. And the owner of the gym had asked, like, hey, would you want to coach a couple classes? See if you like it. Are you interested? So I was like, well, sure, I'll just try it out.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out I enjoy it. And that kind of started my coaching journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to Humana, and I was with Exos.
You've done a lot of work within Exos too, like on continuing your education with precision nutrition and that realm, as far as also with like personal training, as far as like working towards the CSCS. So like a lot of continuing education there that you've really put a lot of effort into. Like from a coaching perspective, I know we're talking personal the first half, but from a coaching perspective, like how do you feel like you've evolved as a coach?
I think a lot of it was such a like mental shift. Like obviously I love learning about new things, and I love like feeling like I know these things that I should be talking about, or that I'm like when I'm engaging with people. But my mental shift through just like experience was huge, because obviously, like I said, I came from an athletic background. So I'm very just like, just do it. Just go do it. Like you can do it. What are you questioning yourself about? So then it's like you're working with people who haven't had that. And so now you're like training them to think like that and encouraging them to do things that are like insane to them.
Yeah.
So I think my mental shift was more like, okay, now you're working with people who don't have that thought process. Here, like, you can coach people to do that.
That's the fun part. Do you feel like you had people in your life that were influential in how your thought process came up? Like who are some influential people in your life?
Absolutely. Initially, obviously, my parents, like, they're both very active. They stayed active with us, like, as kids. So I think that kicked it off immediately. Like, my dad would race us from the time that we could run. He
Like
was racing
stiff arming the kids.
Literally. There was no such thing as, like, letting the kids win.
Okay, I love that.
So he was very active, like, pushed us really hard in school and in sports. But it was just, my mom was a part of the track team when she was in college. So it was just, they were the initial drivers. Obviously, my siblings were in sports. And then in high school, I had two coaches who were just, they kind of took that second role of like pushing me really hard, driving me to like try new things. I never would have tried the 400 meters if it weren't for them, ever. Turned out to be my best event. Who would have known?
Randi hates running, if you all don't know. Like, she hates running, and she was a D1.
Did you hate it when you were doing it? Or is it now, like, looking back, you're like, oh, I'm done with that?
So I always hated longer distance running, and 400 just was one more step to a longer distance run. Like, I was very much a 100, 200 person. At my height, there's not a lot of women who are like killing 100 and 200. So then you get to 400 and it's like, oh, this is long.
So are people taller than you that are doing well at the 100 and 200, or are they shorter?
I would say shorter from what
Okay.
I've, maybe the same, but there's not a lot of taller women. I
Okay.
mean, like, obviously you have Usain Bolt, who's like the fastest
Yeah.
man, who's 6'3",
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
he's pretty
but
tall.
he's pretty tall. So, like, he kills it. But you don't see it. If you look at the races,
Yeah.
how many tall people do you really see?
Like when I was at UK, I only seen like my track girls that were tall. They were typically in a relay or 400, or they were in hurdles because they were long, or they were a multi where they were in like long jump and.
I
Yep.
even was approached about hurdles.
Yeah.
And we started that process, but
How'd that go? That looks
I mean-
so hard.
I mean, I will say I got to do other things other than running.
Okay.
So there was like skill work with hurdles. You
Yeah.
don't get that with run. Once you have it, once you know how to run, like what else are you doing but running?
Yeah.
So
Well, so you played all those sports and running and stuff. When did you like really start like lifting weights, getting into a weight room? Was that like earlier on, or was that more like in college, like athletics? When did you start with that?
Consistently in college, for sure. I had dabbled in a weight room. I'd been in gyms for a lot of my life, so I wasn't unfamiliar with them. But as far as like knowing a routine or knowing what to do for a program, like I never had that. We would go in every once in a while in high school and train with like a physical therapist who would kind of walk us through that. But that was the extent, and he was volunteering his time, so it's only on his like watch.
That's so crazy. Like we didn't even have a weight room in high school. Like that's what we were talking the other day. Like times have changed. Like people are realizing the importance of, even at younger ages and for all sports, the importance of weights, which is so interesting. Cause like I was not exposed to it until college at all.
I started when I was 16, but it was just like me and my guy best friend that he played basketball and so did I. And like the Gold's Gym had a basketball court in it. So like we would just go and lift some weights, and he knew some stuff to do. So I would just do whatever he did. But yeah, it wasn't until college. And like now it's really weird. And I think Coach Donnie talked about this, is like he was in the collegiate world. So was I. So were you. Like, seeing the need for like proper training really early on, because by the time you get to collegiate sports, like your body you've already picked up like bad traits on how you move.
You're
and
behind.
Like, and to teach a kid to run, it needs to be like 9 and 10. But there's like this stigma of still like weights are going to stunt your growth. There's still that guy in the room. Like, my mom said it the other day to my nephew. And I'm, like, sitting right there. I'm like, Mom, shh.
Yeah.
She's
Not
like,
if you're using
what?
good
I'm like,
form.
that's not scientifically correct. She's like, oh, no? I'm like, no, that is not. Yeah, so it's still, like, a big thing. So did you like lifting weights in college, or how was that for you?
I mean, we had a love-hate relationship initially.
Okay.
Because, like I said, you're behind when you get there. There's a lot of... You're coming into, like, with the best of the best.
The best.
So a lot of the girls and guys there, like, they had some sort of weight training, or maybe they had a consistent routine. So initially it was like, oh, this is, like, cool, but I'm also dying. Someone help. So after that, I did really fall in love with it, and it was enjoyable for me to do. So getting back into it more full time, I guess, and it becoming more of my regimen post graduating. That was what I enjoyed. I loved doing it.
What do you feel like you love about it? Like, what's the parts that you really like about being active?
Okay, for weightlifting, I just like feeling strong. I like feeling like...
So empowering.
It's like a competitive thing in me, too. Also, just like, like, how much can I lift? Am I lifting more than the average person? That type of thing. As far as, like, solely just being active, it's really just how you feel. Like, getting up and, like, moving your body changes your mental, like, how you feel throughout the day. I'm much more productive. I can think clearer. It's just a better all-around type of thing. I sleep better.
Oh, for sure. I think some people are unaware of, like, how good their body can actually feel. Because they're, like, stuck in a way of, like, not typically working out, so it can't get over the fact of the soreness. Because there is going to be, you know, you've worked your muscles and strained your muscles, so there's going to be soreness. But it's almost like if you get over that piece, where you're not so sore anymore because you stay consistent, like, they're not aware that your body can feel really good. And you can feel really happy. Like, I'll go into a workout and be like, I just want to go home. I do not want to be here, but I'm here. And then when I leave, it's like, I'm so happy, right?
Absolutely.
I didn't realize, like, when you said, like, feeling strong, I remember when I had my surgery 2 years ago, so I was, like, pretty strong before, and then I, like, lost all my muscle, and I remember, like, after recovery and I could do stuff, I remember, like, going to the grocery store and getting a bag of dog food, like, I don't know, 35, 50 pounds, I don't know what it was, and I, like, could not even lift it. I was like, has this always been this heavy? Like, this is insane. And, like, just the other day, I was, like, thinking about it again because I got another bag of dog food from Costco, and I was just, like, throwing it around, and it's like, wow, like, I feel strong again. And it's, like, so many people are going through their daily lives not realizing that, like, you can be strong and, like, make things a little easier on yourself.
I literally love hearing clients come in and be like, oh my God, I lifted this or I moved. And they're doing house stuff. Like, they're not lifting
But it's
on
so
their own.
functional. Like, it transfers.
Yeah, like, I'm not sore. I'm not hurting. Like, I could move it and I didn't have an issue. So
Yeah.
that I love hearing.
Even, like, I used to train some, like, older people, and, you know, after a while, she's like, oh, I was gardening all day Saturday, and, like, I was never sore. Like, I could get up and down, and I could do all the shoveling stuff. And I was like, right on. She's probably close to 80, too.
And it can transcend to anything. Like, my parents got a new couch this weekend, so they asked some people to help move it, and it feels so good knowing that, like, I'm going to be able to, like, help them move their couch. Like, my dad doesn't even have to. He's 67. Like, can he? Yes, but, like, you don't even need to. Like, and that stuff feels good. Just like you said, someone gardening and not having to feel pain. But, like, there are obstacles and challenges that everyone faces. Like, what are some of the obstacles and challenges you feel like you've faced personally in, like, your well-being journey?
I'd probably say my first one was body image. Obviously, as women, you suffer probably from body image issues from the time you can think.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. If you don't, great. And then just like the mental aspect. So like coming out of college and still feeling like I have to push myself the same exact way, or I can't make modifications to exercises, even though I might be in pain, or, you know, like, oh, I have to finish this. Like, there's no way I can quit. I have to do the advanced version. Just those type of things. And then kind of getting into figuring out a routine for myself, because I was always put in a routine. I didn't choose it. So now it's like, now you have to choose a routine and stick to it. You don't have anybody forcing you to do it.
I feel like that is the hardest part of a lot of people that were college athletes and coming out of that. And, like, no one's telling you what to do anymore. No one's pushing you. And so, like, you really have to dig deep and find that in yourself. Otherwise, it's real easy to fall off. And a lot of times, too, like, you're used to training a certain way, but you're also used to eating a certain way to maintain that training. And a lot of times people don't find that routine of that training, and that falls off, but they're still used to that level of eating. And then that's where, like, the spiral kind of starts. Yeah, like, you don't realize.
Luckily, my nutrition got better the older I got. So I was, like, learning food cues, like hunger cues and things like that, the older I got, because I just didn't really pay attention to them, I guess, when I was younger.
I feel like you don't have to as much when you're younger. Like, it's just
Girl, just
off.
just to eat.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about body image. I want to stay there for a moment, because, like, that's just such a big topic for women, and something women and men particularly go through. Unfortunately, like, it does tend to happen to women more often because they're scrutinized for their size. Like, how have you battled body image over the years? Like, how did you deal with that?
It's a constant mental battle, I would say. Luckily, I've always had parents who were very, like, reassuring about my weight or what I looked like, or like, okay, that's fine if that's what it is. Like, it doesn't matter. So I think it was always talking to, the first time I really had like a true issue was probably in college, when the first time I had my body fat percentage taken. And I'm being told, like, oh, this is a lot for a sprinter, or, whatever they might say. And so then I'm going back to my weight coach, and I'm like, am I overweight? Am I, like, I have too much body fat on me? Like, what's wrong? Like, do I have to lose weight? And he's like, no. Like, please just calm down. Like, the amount of weight that you would have to lose to drop your body fat percentage right now would be insane. And he was like, you can't afford to do that. So that was like and it was a really reassuring experience. So after that, I kind of held on to that and just kind of keep that in the back of my head of, like, when I'm going through, like, changes with my body, because again, that was a long time ago. That's not what I go through now. I still have thoughts and insecurities, but it's also like, okay, well, are you healthy? Can you move? If you want to train a different way, or if you want to be, like, faster, stronger. Like, are you training for that? Okay, cool. If you are, great. You'll get better. The rest of it doesn't really matter that much as long as you're healthy.
Yeah, there is that shift from training for performance to training for life and health and everything else.
Exactly.
And that is so different because you do train different for performance, and you do, want your body a certain way for competitive performance. And then, like, you don't need that anymore. And it's finding that new, I can do this. I can accept my body like this, and I can, train the way I want and the way that I enjoy in a way that's sustainable for life.
And there's always going to be ebbs and flows of that too. There's always going to be timing where you may in your life be training highly for performance, and that's great. I would encourage you to eat more during that time because you are training for performance. But there's also going to be, typically it's as we age and as we are shorter on time, maybe because of kids, maybe because of career, maybe because you want to travel more, maybe it's because you're tired of training as your number one priority all the time, where some things shift, and like there's going to be different body types for different kind of work output that you're putting in and what you're willing to balance at that time.
Yeah.
And even coming out of that and realizing, like, I can still be very healthy and maintain, like, a decent amount of muscle and a good body and my health without training, 2 practices, 2 hours a day for 5, 6, 7 days a week with minimal like just going crazy. Like, I can still be healthy and I can still have muscle, and this is fine with,
like
3 times a week or whatever. Yeah.
When did you feel like you hit that point? Because you did talk about, like, you, not in this, but like we were talking, and you've talked about, like, you're kind of in a transitional phase.
Yeah.
Now. How's that going? How'd you get there?
So I think I've been pushing myself to do a 5 to 6 strength training, weightlifting program or like a regimen for a long time now. And it really just hit me, like, very recently that you're just not going to do that. That's just not what you want.
Because it's not enjoyable anymore.
Yeah, it's not enjoyable anymore. So I have shifted to like 3 to 4 days of weight training. Another day might be running because I know I need to run, even though I hate it.
We're going that health phase, cardiovascular health.
Now we're into the health age, like, I want to be healthy. And then like maybe a day of like hot yoga and just like walking, just being active and less strict workouts. It's a lot more flexible. It gives me some freedom to like try new things again. And explore some different options.
Sometimes you gotta do that when you're burned out. You gotta mix it up. You gotta try some other things, cut it back, recover.
Your body will probably thank you too. Like, I wish I would have hit that phase a little bit sooner. Like, I'm paying for some things right now. I'm in my late 30s. It's the first time I said that out loud. Let's go back to I'm in my mid 30s. I can still hang on to that, I think. Let's go mid.
High mid.
High mid. We're in the high mids. But yeah, I'm like a little bit paying for the 5 to 6 days a week for a very, very long time with like really high volume. Like, I'm paying for some of that right now. And like, I'm burnt out as can be. Like, 4 days, we're good. Like, and that was even hard for me to get to. So like, I think everyone goes through that a little bit as different things become priorities in their life. I want to touch on this because this is a little bit different from many of our listeners. A lot of our listeners are typically looking to lose weight, change their diet, get into better eating habits. Randi went through a transition where she was actually looking to put on muscle, and so she had to look to increase what she was eating. And we don't typically like touch on that for our listeners that are looking to gain muscle. Can you take us through like what that journey was like for you? You're looking to put on weight. You're having to eat way more than you're typically used to. How did that start and how did it go?
To be honest, it all started like aesthetically. I wanted to look more muscular. So then I decided, okay, well, we're going to gain some weight. We're going to put on some weight and gain some muscle. We're going to stick to a program, and that was probably like a year process of like trying to gain 20 to 25 pounds. It was very rough at the beginning. Me trying to figure out like a balance of like, how much should I be eating? How do I even eat this much food in a day?
I'm sure
How do
you
I
were
take in
like
this many?
disgusted at the beginning.
I sit with my food a lot. It would just be there for like an hour, hour and a half of food just sitting there because I couldn't finish it, but I needed to. Quote unquote needed
Randy
to.
still be doing that because last week she had her lunch on her desk for 2 hours, and Haley and I were like, "What are you doing? Like your lunch has been sitting there for 2 hours."
To be fair, I am a slow eater to begin with, but it didn't help when you start trying to eat a lot more food and you're eating for a purpose. And I started tracking it because I knew that I wouldn't take in that much if I wasn't tracking it. So it was like, okay, that was probably my hardest part, was just eating.
How much
Forcing myself.
How much were you eating?
Around 2,700 calories.
Okay.
Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. It definitely went with my workouts. So like if I'm working out, I'm going to hit more calories. If I'm not, then I'm probably going to have a little less. I just could not force myself to eat that much food
For reference,
on off days.
for reference for our audience, can you say like how tall you are and
Okay.
like what your weight was like at the time?
Okay, so I am 5'9". When I started, I was around like 145, 150.
Okay.
And I got to 170, 175. So
How'd you feel? How'd you feel in the difference of those weights?
The biggest difference was in my clothes. I would say that I definitely noticed physically some where I hold weight. I didn't love it, but I noticed it most in my clothes. I would put on clothes and I'm like trying on things that normally just fit fine, and now they're pretty snug, which duh, naturally, but I don't know why I did not think of that initially. So I'm like, okay, my clothes don't fit. Like, do I have to buy new clothes? Do I just need to give it some time to like settle in?
Yeah.
You know, maybe the weight just needs to settle in. Yeah, maybe it just needs to move around a little bit before I have to like go buy all new clothes. So that was probably the biggest change in like how I felt about me gaining weight. And it's still, even though I'm not still at 175, I kind of am moving back and forth between the high 160s and 170s. It's still like a transition to figure out like, where am I with my clothes? Is this where I still want to be? Do I want to be, you know, a little bit lower?
Did you increase muscle mass too?
I did increase muscle mass.
Nice.
So most of the weight that I gained was muscle. Obviously, there's going to come some fat with it.
Yeah, I think that's an
naturally.
important note for the audience is like you can't just be like, I'm gonna up my calories to 3,000 calories a day, and I want to gain muscle, so I'm just gonna gain muscle. Like,
yeah, to be clear, you can put on 20, 25 pounds real quick
Yes.
on the Little Debbie diet.
yeah, and,
but we're
this
talking
took
about
Randy
muscle.
a year,
Yeah.
and she did it the right way, and you're still gonna put on fat when you're looking to put on muscle. Like they both happen. They can both happen. Obviously, she's training a lot, so like we're converting a lot of that to muscle, but there's going to be some fat that comes along
Especially,
with that.
Like, and you know too, like, but like that shredded like bodybuilding muscle stuff, you know, where they bulk and then they shred, like that's not really, you know, holding that shred is not sustainable forever. So like, yes, when you are, even if you want to put on muscle, you are putting on some weight too. And when people do that, the cut to shred it off, like that's not necessarily sustainable. Like
It's for a certain day, and
Right.
a certain purpose, and like once you come off that, like especially with women, like when you're staying at that low of body fat, to be able to visibly see, let's just say like striations in your legs, a full six pack, bulging shoulders, like there's going to be a lot of things hormonally that will be impacted negatively by staying at that low of a body fat percentage. So
Absolutely.
what you're seeing on socials you may think, oh my God, that she looks great. Like, you have no idea what her health parameters are or where she might be trying to get to and then kind of come out of it. So it's important that, like, if you're doing a typical shred, you go back to what we call homeostasis, and that means where your body sits really comfortably at.
I think, like you saying that, it's also important to talk about genetics. Like,
Yes.
everyone's genetics are differently. So just because she looks like that, that could be her homeostasis. Or that could be her living at a very uncomfortable shred body fat
so angry.
percentage. Yeah.
That's
like it's
chicken and rice and green beans every meal, folks.
And so like what my shred, what your shred, what Amy's shred looks like would all be different even if we did all the same things and ate the same way. Like it's all going to look very different. So don't underestimate genetics. Like you can change your body absolutely, but genetics do play a part and you have to be aware of that. You can't change your genetics.
That is what drives me crazy. That's such a big thing on social media, that like what I ate in a day as a whatever girl doing this, and it's like, I don't know, someone else can eat that exact meal forever, and
We don't have the same genetic
Yeah, it
markers.
doesn't.
My
What works for
six-pack's-
someone might not work for you.
My six pack's not going to come through. No matter, like, I'm going to have to be so low.
Yeah. And I'm never going to have legs like Randy, and I typically don't hold weight in my stomach, but mine is in my hips, right? It's like, it's all who you are and your genetics. What would you say is like, eating that much food is tough, right? So what would you say mentally were your two biggest obstacles when gaining weight? I know you talked about like the clothes fitting right, but like how did you feel at the time? Did you feel good?
I did. I always had like this thought in my head, like, oh, it's not going to work or it's not going to be what you want it to be because of how I hold weight. So I was concerned about that. And I'm like, what if I do all this and it doesn't work? So that was always in the back of my head. But I loved seeing the number go up because I was getting to my goal. So I felt like I was accomplishing something while also still questioning, like, am I going to accomplish the second goal? You know, like, am I going to look how I want to look?
Interesting.
So,
So, you know, you went from college athletics to finding a balance, gaining weight, figuring out, you know, where you want to be. Where would you say today you are in your fitness journey?
I'm in that transition period, like figuring out what do I want to do, what do I want my regimen to look like, because it's not the 5 to 6 days a week of strength training. It's definitely like for health, more likely than it was before. It's steering more towards health, and I'm looking for like cardiovascular health. I'm looking for like what does my blood work look like when I go to the doctor? Am I eating so that it matches what I want it to look like when I go to the doctor, or what I want my physical goals to look like as well? Because if I'm healthy at the doctor, then cool, I can train for whatever I want to. But yeah, so it's like we're figuring it out.
Are you back on? Randy was vegetarian for a while. Are you
Yeah.
Are you back in the meats?
I am
Are we
back in the
meeting
meats.
again? She's back in the meats, getting a balanced workout schedule. How do you feel about your nutrition overall now? Have you found a balance with that?
Yeah, I feel like I definitely, when I started eating meat again, kind of like at the end of last year, I was very cautious. Like I was a little bit concerned about like, what is it going to do? Am I going to immediately gain back weight or gain more weight maybe? Because I had already kind of reached the goal that I wanted. But I had initially lost, 5 to 8 pounds when I went vegetarian, and I kind of stayed there. So like coming back to it, I was just kind of like, am I going to be able to cook it?
Yeah,
Because that
tastes good.
Because to be
I don't
honest,
like
that
raw
was my
meat.
sole reason for stopping eating meat. Like, was I hated cooking it. It made me sick.
How long were you a vegetarian?
3 years.
I thought it was a little while.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you gain the weight back?
Well, no, because I had built from the 150 to like my goal weight, and I didn't gain any more.
Okay.
So I'll say no, but I had already gained that extra 20 to 25
Yeah,
pounds, so
you're
maybe
good.
I covered it.
You're good. So, like, we've talked a lot about where you're at, where your health journey is. Like, I do want to transition quickly into some things you've done as a professional, like with your clients. But one more thing about yourself is, like, what are some healthy habits you would talk to people about or that you're passionate about?
I'm very big. I tell this to everyone I talk to because it's such an easy ask, is meal planning. You don't have to meal prep. You don't have to plan out you don't have to like prep all your meals for the week. But if you meal plan, if you write out all of your groceries that you need for the week and plan those meals, then you have all of those. And you can I always say you can do pre-prep. So you can chop up your veggies, you can like bag your chicken in marinades. Like you can do all of the pre-work so that when you come home, if you're busy, if you have kids, if you have someone else that you're taking care of, you can come home, cook, and it's done.
I don't know why I've never thought about that. I actually really like that because I used to do like Hello Fresh or Every Plate or whatever, and it's basically that. I mean, you still gotta cut up your vegetables and stuff, but yeah, man, you can just have it ready and then just like throw it together.
Yeah, and you can spend your time doing that. Or I also don't keep snacks in the house because
Me neither.
I will snack on them.
Yep.
I love a snack. And then sleep. Sleep's a big one, and I go back and forth. Amy as that night owl or morning person, and I can be either depending on what my schedule looks like or just how I'm feeling, honestly, that week. So I've put more emphasis on like how I quote unquote set the stage for going to sleep.
How do you do that? What's your stage like?
Gotta be no lights on at night. The phone is away from you, not in your bed.
That's my hardest part.
It's on do not disturb because I do not want my phone
Same.
vibrating or like ringing to wake me up. And it's gotta be on like 60 degrees.
So you're
That's
freezing
a
in there.
meat locker.
What's your cover setup looking like?
I
That is
actually am a
freezing.
like hot sleeper.
Okay.
So in the summer times I have like a sheet.
So are you a top sheet person? There's people that are you a sheet person?
I have a sheet, but I like a little bit more heft on me.
Oh,
So
same.
I get way too hot, but I still like the feel of the
Same.
comforter.
You like the weight.
I have like mad covers. Like they're thick too, but some people like don't do a top sheet
I
at
like
all.
to feel held down. And I don't want to just.
You need like the weighted blanket. You need that.
I've tried that. That's a little too much weight.
Okay.
But I also had it was like a 25 pound blanket. I could probably get like a 10-pound one. And they do have like cooling.
You need to lighten
cool
the load.
ones. I do. I need to lighten it up.
That's too heavy. Like switching to the coaching realm, Randy, like what do you feel like is just with your clients? You work with a lot of people one-on-one. What do you feel like is people's biggest obstacles that are getting in their way from seeing the results that they want?
Putting themselves first, making themselves a priority, and also making it too difficult on themselves, like overthinking some things. And I know that's probably easy for me to say as somebody who's been in it for a while and I've had a lot of time to overthink on it, but genuinely overthinking and not making yourself a priority, because even if you have children to take care of, even if you have someone who needs you, if work needs you, whatever it may be, that hour that you take for yourself to go move, it doesn't have to be in the gym. It doesn't have to be like at home video. You can go walk for an hour, whatever. But that hour that you take for yourself is not going to derail everything else that someone is working on or when somebody may need you. Obviously, life happens. Emergencies happen, so you might have to like cancel for that day, but it's okay. Just make yourself a priority the next day.
I feel like when I do take that hour, like I am more present and like more efficient in work anyway, and I can show up better for people in general.
Exactly.
So it's almost like an investment.
If you want to be able to give back to work, to your family, to your friends, whoever, you have to take some time for yourself. I mean, I feel like it's such a cliche, but like you can't pour from an empty cup. If you haven't given yourself any time to yourself, any like relaxation, recovery, a workout, just simple things, how are you supposed to give anything to somebody else?
Put that mask on first. You can't help anybody if you don't put your mask on and die.
Who do you love, like, working with most? Like, who's a demographic that you prefer to train or
Women.
work with?
Always.
Randy does have. I'm gonna plug you real quick. Randy and our coach Micah started a women's and weightlifting group called the Iron Divas. They're super cool. Yeah, but it's 3 months, right? It's a 3-month progressive training program where you train in a small group. So you get like-minded women training together, and you're basically learning the ins and outs of like resistance trainings. You start with dumbbells or body weight, you work your way up, and you're alongside of Randy and Micah the entire time. So if you're interested, go to our website. It's on our website. You can see it. Randy does it twice a week.
Yeah.
Twice a week for 3 months, and Coach Randy and Coach Micah are your coaches. So it's awesome. So check it out.
Ladies, come see us.
Yes. So what do you love about working with the female demographic, like in the weight room?
It's just, I feel like it's like Mythbusters all the time. Like, you're always, like, even for themselves, like their beliefs of like what they can do. Like, you're myth busting like that. They're like, oh no, there's no way I can jump on this 18-inch box. It's like, yes, you can. We just jumped, and I can see your feet are like 5 inches above it. You can jump on it. Or like, yes, you can lift this deadlift that's 135 pounds. They're like, there's no way. And I'm like, yes, you can. And they're like, wow, you have so much faith in me.
It's just like, yes, you can.
It's literally always like, yes, you can. But I think because you just get to see women be strong. That wasn't always encouraged. It's not something that's always been a thing, is for women encouraged to be strong or to like go to the gym and like find independence, which is so, I love seeing girls like come in and like feel much more confident in the gym, feel comfortable walking in and picking up a weight and not feeling like they have to look around and be like, am I doing this right? Is this okay? And even if you do, that's fine, because we've all walked into a gym and been like, where am I going? What am I doing? What is this equipment? Everybody's done it, but I just love, I don't know,
It's so gratifying.
You're like, oh.
I do.
You should see Randy right now. She's like glowing, and it's so gratifying to like, I don't know, in the same way of like pushing people beyond their like preconceived limits of what they can do is something that's like just really empowering.
It's like fun to watch them like have this revelation of like, oh my God, I can do this.
So you mentioned it's your soapbox moment. So like, what would you tell these women? What would you tell?
You're not going to get bulky. You're not going to get bulky. Like, you just heard me talk about how much food I had to eat.
That's a lot of food.
About how genetics play a part in it, how much work you have to do. The 20 pounds that you lift when you go into the airport. You lift in your purse. You lift your kid that's probably 40 pounds, and you carry them. And so, like, or you're carrying their bags. There's just so many things that you do that require you to be strong or to use your strength, that, like, the 10 to 20 pounds that you lift in the gym are not going to make you bulky at all.
Ladies, our purses weigh like 20 pounds.
Yeah.
I be having bags galore, and you know every woman does. So, like, you can lift those.
You're going to be fine. And stop complicating it also. Just stop. Like, have a balanced diet and keep it pushing. Like, you'll do well.
What would you say to, well, anybody, but we'll say woman, because you're passionate about that. What would you say to a woman that wants to start? Where should someone start?
That's a loaded question, but...
Give us your best advice right here.
My best advice, if you want to start, I'm going to say talk to somebody. You don't have to move forward with training. That's not always what it's about. But talk to a coach if you're looking to get into the gym. I think that's your best bet. They're going to be able to evaluate where you're at and what you're looking for and what you're able to do. And they can give you a starting place. And whether or not you use them for 1 month or 5 years, you at least have you have fresh eyes. You have someone that knows what they're doing, and they can give you like their best advice.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what you're able to do is probably more than you think you can do.
Exactly.
And even if it's not like training, like I know we have like fitness orientations where a coach can take you out onto the floor and you know, even if it's something where it's like, I don't have the money to spend right now. I don't have the expendable income. Okay, where I want you to start is like these pen loaded machines. I want you to do 3 rounds, 3 sets of 10 at each station. You're getting a full body workout. I want you to do that 2 times a week for 4 weeks. At 4 weeks, come back and see me. And it's like, oh my, it's so simple where they just needed like some type of guidance to get them there.
Exactly. It doesn't require you to like switch up your routine every single day. It doesn't require you to go, run 30 miles in the week to make sure that you're hitting your cardio goal. Or, if that's your goal, then great. But if it's not, you don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. It can be very simple, and a coach can help you navigate that. Whether or not you're spending the money to train with them or not, they're going to have some insight for you.
As we end this episode, we want to learn more about you outside of work. Like, name us like some of your passions outside of health and fitness.
Obviously travel. We touched on that earlier.
Big travel girl.
I love to travel.
Randy goes a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your top 3 favorites that you've been to?
Aruba, Italy. Let's just say New Orleans in the States.
Okay.
I'm going back this summer for the 4th or 5th time. So,
dang,
best food I've ever eaten has been in New Orleans, hands down. Like,
really?
My top 3 meals were in New Orleans. It's a different environment, but like their
how I feel
food
about Creole though.
Their food is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Their seafood, like,
I'll try it.
God.
Top tier.
And it's not all Cajun, like, but their seafood is like,
I do love seafood.
it's different level. It's different level. So what other passions do you have?
Travel, obviously training women, as you guys heard me go into awe about them. But also I just love being outside, and I love nature. I say that loosely. I'm not a
drinking wine on patios.
I'm not a camping girl.
Okay.
I'm not like.
What about glamping?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
I could
open
get
to that.
down. Yeah.
And even like a mild camping, but like one day. Don't ask me like don't ask me to go like hike for 15 miles. I'm not doing it.
Do you consider glamping like a 5-star hotel or?
No, I would actually camp
Oh.
one day. That's all
Like
you get.
tent camp?
Like I would have to shower before we left.
Yeah.
We go do our little hike.
Yeah.
Not too far. Camp. And then we're leaving. We're heading out.
Yeah.
ASAP. We're going to get brunch.
Yeah. I don't even know if we're going to get breakfast. That's how early we're leaving. Because, like, I can't. I cannot. Like, Amy, can you camp?
I could camp. I could do a couple days.
Couple days?
Not showering gets to me though. I get a little ripe, but but I could do a couple days.
I need like one of those like globes that they have that have like little air conditions.
I need a phone charger.
Amy
I'm an
does.
Instagram girly. I need
Okay.
If we're doing multiple days, yes, give me
like
a globe.
Okay. So everyone that's listening, Randi can be kind of outdoorsy.
Yeah.
So, Randi, thanks so much for sharing your journey with us, your insights. Guys, you can find her at Well at Humana. She's coaching, she's on the floor, and she's definitely one of our long-term experts. So come see us, and thanks for joining, Randi.
Thanks for having me.